So today is a little bit different topic for me. I'm going to deal with a subject matter called camouflage. Camouflage. So literally I thought about running by and getting a camouflage shirt from Academy and just wearing it for the message that I'd remember. And then I remembered I had this at home, and this was Cameron's, by the way. And so he wore this a lot. And so I thought, you know what, I'll just take that, maybe I'll just put it over my shirt, but I don't think I'm going to do that. But it fit today, and it's just a reminder. And so I hope today that if nothing else sticks that we've done so far, that this message is branded in your heart. I hope this is one that you don't have to go look for, but is right on the surface that you'll be able to address and deal with. How many of you can see the guy that's leaning up against the tree? How many of you had to blow it up and try to get in there and see if there's a camouflaged guy leaning against the tree? You see a forehead. Forget the forehead. You see the gun sticking out? Yeah, then you go to his hand and you move up. You can see, anyway, he's there. And this is, Rachel doesn't look at our social media posts. Did you find him? Where's Waldo? Okay. This is really a picture of how many believers try to live for Jesus. Well, I was there. Where were you? Well, I saw you do this, that. Where were you? We are so blended in that nobody's aware of our presence. I need you to understand that that is not the way that God wants to be in our lives. He does not want to be so blended in to our surroundings that we have a difficult time discerning him. Am I making sense to anybody so far? So let me give you just an introduction story, and then I'm going to hit the ground with both feet. So in one of Aesop's fables, he tells of the miller, his son, and his donkey. The two of them were riding their donkey to a nearby fair to sell him. And they hadn't got very far when they met a group of women that were chatting around the well. I don't have time to stop there, but you can imagine. And so they began laughing. Look there. Did you ever see such a thing? They're walking. Don't they realize they could ride the donkey? So the miller was embarrassed, and so he put his son on the donkey, and he went down the road, and then they came across a group of old men. Another story. And one of them said, that just proves how youth doesn't respect the elderly. So the miller got on the donkey and let his son walk. And so after a little while, they heard some jeering coming from some women and children. Why, you lazy old goat, how can you ride the donkey when a little boy can barely keep up? So then they both got on the donkey, and as they were coming into town, a man asked, is that your donkey? The miller said, yes. And then the man said, well, I wouldn't have guessed it by how mean you are to it by loading it down with all your weight. You two fellows are better off carrying him than the poor donkey carrying you. Anything to please you, the miller said, and they tied the donkey to a stick and began carrying him into the town over their shoulders. Everyone in town was laughing at the sight, and the donkey became startled and broke loose, tumbling off the pole and into the river. He went home convinced that trying to please everyone pleases no one. You can't please everyone, no matter how hard you try. It's like politicians. Chameleon Christians try to please all sides and end up pleasing no one because they don't stand for anything more than having a favorable position. Honestly, I feel in the last couple of months, I've had nothing but difficult messages. Have you felt that way? Well, this is going in the same file. Because even this morning, while I was preparing my notes, my son had sent me a little video clip. And so I looked at it, and it was an interview of Oprah and a well-known minister, and we'll leave it there. And she asked him the question, do you believe that homosexuality is a sin? This is well known. And first he said, well, I'm not sure. And then he said, well, I don't think so. And then I found another clip where a well-known singer, one that I've played here numerous times, was asked in an interview how they felt about homosexuality. And the well-known singer said, I have so many friends that are gay that I feel very influenced that it might not be as bad as what I once thought. just so you can exhale, I'm not going to preach on homosexuality today. That's not my goal. My point is, people who say that they're of faith, who sing gospel music, who preach the message from pulpits, don't even understand what the Word says about one of the most pronounced sins in our nation today. And we somehow seem to think that if we have gay friends, then we can't believe that they're going to hell because they chose a lifestyle that was contrary to the one that God gave them. We may be going closer to 5. I'm really okay with it. So I need you to grasp this understanding that we have to, A, know what this says, B, know what it means, C, know how to apply it to our life, and D, be able to give an account to those that ask us about the hope that's within us. So, I find it also fascinating even today how God's own creation teaches us lessons. I mean, after all, No Excuses is based out of Romans 1:20 that talks about how God's creation, the birds of the air, the trees, and everything that God's created is a testament to the fact that there's a creator. They just didn't pop. They just didn't happen. God built them. We learn as a lesson of industry from the ants in the book of Proverbs. You want to have plenty? Learn from the ant, you sluggard. Come on, sock it away while you have excess so that when it comes in a drought or a season of less than, you'll have enough. We learn the insidiousness of the enemy as a roaring lion in 1 Peter. We learn a lesson of God's provision from a sparrow in the 3rd and 4th Gospels. We see the importance of God's word through seeds in the book of Mark and the book of Luke. We see different lessons from nature and the seasons. So I want you to hear a new terminology that I'm probably not the first one to use it, but it's new to me. I want to talk for a little bit about camouflage Christianity. Camouflage Christianity. This is the art of blending in with your surroundings so as to remain undetected. I mean, do you get this? Christians, by and large, want to live in such a way that who they serve is not discerned by others so that they can show up in heaven and people go, what are you doing here? Everybody's going to know when we get there, right? But you're not going to be known for something over there that you weren't known for here. You got to hear that. You will not be known for being this spiritual giant in heaven if you're known for not supporting God in this life. Let me put it this way. The way you exit this life is the same state that you'll be in that life. That's what I'm trying to say. How you exit here is how you enter there. This is not something that you can just cram for the last 5 days of your life to pass the final exam. One animal that's known for great camouflage is the chameleon. How many's ever seen a chameleon? How many's ever played with a chameleon? Seen a chameleon in class, and they'd bring a ball cap or a picture or something and just change colors. It's amazing. I understand that it's a common misconception that chameleons always do this to match their environment, but it is undeniable that they will blend with their environment. Why? To protect themselves and evade predators. To protect themselves and evade predators. Can I just tell you, we spend most of our life trying to avoid conflict. And yet God has called us to war for Him in this life. So we spend our life trying to avoid the thing that God put in our DNA. Some of you, listen to this, some of you have a real fight on the inside of you, but nobody spiritual has ever spoken to you and addressed that and tried to pull that out of you. And so what happens is it comes out in sarcasm. you don't even know what to do with the pent-up frustration, and so somebody just says something, not even meaning anything mean or whatnot, and you'll just have a smart aleck response, and you get a lot of laughs, and it's funny sometimes, and it's serious at other times. You don't even understand it yet, but there is a fight that is on the inside of you that's built into your DNA that God wants to show you how to harness that to be used as a powerhouse for God, to fight the enemy. Not just to fight any and everybody, but to fight the enemy. There is a particular chameleon called a Smith's dwarf chameleon. It not only adjusts its color for camouflage, but it adjusts its colors also in accordance with the vision of a specific predator. So it can change its color in order to match the vision that it knows a bird or a snake would have, so as not to be visible. I believe that there's also a certain species of believers that have the ability to do much the same. They adjust their colors based on the views of those outside the church in order to avoid ridicule. In Aesop's fables, no matter what they did, they were criticized. I need you to hear this. I am presently being criticized for a number of things. One of them is my staunch stance against the sin of homosexuality. Not an aggressive stance against the homosexual, but the sin. You hear what I'm saying? I have friends that have murdered other people, served time, did what they had to do. I don't not love them because of what they did. I love them in spite of what they did, but I don't condone what they did. Anybody, you catch anything I'm saying? And so we have to have that kind of mentality. And so I'm also taking some heat over things that I've said over Halloween. And I need you to hear me. When people in the church want to fight me and fight Scripture and fight what God says in a way to defend their ability to celebrate a pagan holiday that is full of witchcraft and black magic, I have to wonder what side you're on. I am not here for your approval. And if you think that you're going to vote on what message you like and don't like by whether you attend or don't attend, you're the fool in that scenario, not me. You need to hear that God is planting people on purpose in the place that they're supposed to be to get what they're supposed to get so they can become who God's called them to be. There were things that I've done in my life that my dad had to beat out of my life. You understand what I'm saying? You ever heard the belt come out of 5 straps? 5 loops? Brow, then bam, 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 bam. Why? Because there were things in my life that didn't belong that I was willing to let stay there until forced to deal with them. Sometimes we just have to be forced to deal with stuff. Because the enemy's like a snake in the grass. He loves to just hang out and not be detected until he finds you in a moment of weakness, and then he pops up to strike. So instead of waiting on you to find a moment of weakness, I want you in the middle of strength to be able to identify there's a snake there, and how about I get rid of him before he gets rid of me? Charles Spurgeon once said, "That very church which the world likes best is sure to be that which God abhors." Oh, Lord, help me today. If an unrepentant and sinful world continues to flock to a church and yet remains unchanged, unmoved, unsaved, and something's wrong with that church. Help me, God. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 points. The problem of camouflage Christianity, the practice of the same, and the prevention of the same. So first, the problem. What is the purpose of even having a church? Why are we doing what we're doing? You know the name church comes from 2 words, Ek, which means out of, and kaleo, which means to call. So from those two words coming together, we get the word ecclesia. How many's ever heard the word ecclesia before? The word ecclesia simply means to call out of, or a called out assembly or congregation. So you need to hear that God is calling out people from the outside to what he's called them to do and be. So we're being called out of the society we find ourselves in into the family that God has designed us to be a part of. That's the ecclesia. This is an assembly of believers, of Christians. So the question I think we have to ask ourselves is, why go? Why go to church? We can't convince others to go if we don't go ourselves. I don't know how many times I've told parents, your kids will not do what you say. They will do what you do. So the world may say, why do we need to go to church? We have our own charities. Why do we need church? We have our own morals. We have our own political correctness. Why do we need the church? We have our own ways of doing good in society. So there really is a pervasive ideology amongst unbelievers that the church has nothing to offer the world in which we're called to reach. To be honest with you, that's the mindset that many in the church have, that I don't have anything to really reach the neighbors in the surrounding community, and that's far from the truth. So if the world is looking for more of the same, why would they want to come here to find what they have there? I really need an answer to that. If we are called out ones, we're called out from a particular mindset and community and way of life and called into a family that does life differently. We step to the different beat. We live in a different way. Why then would I want to take that and camouflage it to look like what I came out of so as not to cause any consternation there? Listen. I like to ride my Harley. I do. And I've found I enjoy night riding a lot. And the reason I enjoy night riding is I see things that I never see in the day. Because there's signs that are lit at night. Signs that I just blow by every day, don't even recognize that it's there until I'm going by the same geographical location in the middle of the night, and it's got these big neon or LED lights, and I go, where'd that come from? How long has that been there? I went into a restaurant not long ago, and I said, how long y'all been here? 40 years. Oh, wow. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't see them. And you need to understand that if our life is being lived in such a way that people pass us night and day and night and day and night and day and don't even know that we're there because we are so blended into our natural surroundings, then we are not the family that God has called us to be. God has called us to be visible, to be seen, to be a light in a darkened world. He's called us to be absolutely out in the open about who we are, to give them a choice so they have some place to go that's different than what they got. Problem, one of the many problems with camouflage Christianity is the misconception that the church has to blend into the world around it in order to be relevant. I got to pick on that word. I'm so tired of the word relevant being thrown at me or in my face, okay? You need to understand something. Things that are going on outside are relevant to the society because the society dictates what's relevant. Oh, God help me today. So we have people that are coming into the church and thinking that their voice matters as to what's relevant in the church. What you have outside is a democracy. What you have inside is a theocracy. So what you have outside is if we come together and take a vote, then we can make things change. What you have on the inside is God says, this is the way, walk ye in it, and you choose whether you want to do that or go back to where you came from. There has to be a difference. People from the outside will not be attracted to the inside because we sing so melodiously. They will not be attracted because of the threads that we wear or the cars that we drive. That's what happens on the outside. What's going to change them is how we express and represent who Jesus is to them. Whether we love them, whether they smell, they stink, or they smell good. Whether they have a good job, a bad job, or no job. It's how they're treated, how they're loved, how they're desired, how they're valued. That's what grows the family. It's amazing. So many people will talk about I could do so much for the kingdom if I just had more money. If we just had more money, we could get this bigger property. And, well, you hadn't filled the property in, but we could have bigger signs. We could do more on social media. I want you to understand those are all tools, and I'm not totally dismissing all of that. But what I'm saying is the greatest advertisement, the greatest billboard that there ever was, is you and me. We're the greatest billboard there ever was. And you say, oh, whatever. Really? Then how many of you are wearing T-shirts that say something? Tommy is. He's wearing a construction T-shirt. Who else? Harley Davidson shirt back here. What does that say? Love like Jesus on that shirt. I mean, why? If we don't think that what we wear matters, then why do we wear what we wear? Y'all don't think what you wear matters? You remember your first date? Fix that hair, brush them teeth 5 times. You know what I'm saying? I mean, make sure you spray the smell good all over. Why? Because you know that the way you present yourself matters. So please don't act like it doesn't matter now. If you didn't believe that you were an advertising agent, you would not be wearing shirts that have a message. The greatest advertisement in the world that ever was is you and I. And yet the enemy has so convinced us that our voice matters not at all. Many times, the more likely the reason is because of not wanting to be a camouflage Christian, or the reason we want to be a camouflage Christian, rather, is because we're afraid of being holy. Imagine that. Because once you're holy, you can't fit in. Once you're holy, you're different. Once you're holy, you're noticed. Once you're holy, you're set apart. Holiness isn't hip. Holiness is lame. It's old-fashioned. It's from the 50s. Holiness does not compute in the hearts and minds of those that don't know Jesus. So if you're waiting like your bell-bottom ties to come back in style, holiness will never come back in style. It won't. Holiness will never be an accepted norm in a society of the unregenerated. Why in the world does the church have the mindset that we've got to be accepted by the world in order to win the world? Yeah. Don't work. So the world thinks that holiness isn't cool, and so therefore some Christians get together and say, well, we'll make it cool. Yeah. Why would I want to make something so pure, so dirty to be accepted by filth? So since we can't please both of them, we wind up looking like the miller, realizing that trying to please all pleases none. You do know that's why I don't put out, I'm thinking about preaching a message on holiness today and sending it out on the app to see what kind of response that I get. You do understand there's a reason why I don't take votes on what it is that's going to be taught or said or presented. Because people that have a view that's contrary to that would never want to listen to that. That's why sometimes I like to leave the messages a little cryptic so you don't know what to expect. I want to keep you guessing just a little bit. Martin Lloyd-Jones once said, when the church is absolutely different from the world, she invariably attracts it. It is then the world is made to listen to her message. They're not going to listen to you because you look like them. They're not going to listen to you because you're hanging out in the same bars with them. They're not going to listen to you because you're going to the same concerts with them. They're not going to listen to you because you drink the same stuff. They're not. They're going to look at you and say, you're no different than me. And they wouldn't be wrong. You will never win the world by being the world. It doesn't happen that way. So in his book, The Church Awakening, Charles Swindoll wrote the following. He says, we live in a time with a lot of technology and media. We can create things virtually that look real. We have high-tech gadgets that were not available to previous generations, and we have learned that we can attract a lot of people to church. If we use these things, it will work. I began to see that happening about 20 years ago, he said, and it troubled me then, and it's enormously troubling to me now because the result of an entertainment mentality leads to biblical ignorance. Some time ago, a group of church leaders decided that they didn't want to be hated, so they focused. Can you imagine that? I'm sorry, take a pause. So some church leaders decided they did not want to be hated, and so they focused on just attracting more and more people. But if we are here to offer something that the world can't provide, then why would we copy the world to do it? That's right. End quote. The greatest problem with camouflage Christianity is that it pretends to be the cure, but it spreads the disease. Help me, Jesus. So, like an infected doctor going to a patient, giving them something worse than what they came to be treated for. That's what we do when we try to personify who they are and somehow say that in doing so that we're declaring Jesus. Amen. When we do that, we render the gospel ineffective. It's detrimental to true evangelism. Someone once said there's so much church in the world and world in the church that you can't tell the difference between the two anymore. That's the problem with blending in the environment. That's right. If people don't know who you are, you've blended. If people don't know what you stand for, you've blended. If people don't know who Jesus is around you, you've blended. Skipping. So let's talk real quick about practicing camouflage Christianity. This practice is not only rejecting holiness, it's a necessary thing. You reject holiness and you embrace the world in order to hide Christ from other people rather than introducing him to them. So somehow today, it seems that we think we must smuggle Jesus into other people. It's like sneaking a vitamin into a piece of chocolate to get a toddler to eat it, or taking some medicine and shoving it in a hot dog to get your dog to eat it. One giveaway of being a camouflage Christian is the company you keep. If you're not sure which one you are, check out your friends. I'm about to start slinging beef jerky. I got 3 bags of it now. Somebody gave it to me on my birthday. I'm about to start slinging. Just get one of them slingshots and start firing it away. Listen, it's not fun when somebody sets a mirror in front of us when we haven't combed our hair, we haven't brushed our teeth, we haven't ironed our shirt, we haven't put on Smell Good. It's not fun. It's not fun when somebody surprises you with breakfast in bed, and really what they're doing is they're live streaming that bad boy while they do it. That's not fun, and I know to a certain extent that's a little bit of what it feels like today. That all of a sudden it's, oh my goodness, ow, oh stop, come on, quit. But the truth of the matter is, listen, look at the company you're keeping. Look at the company that finds themselves comfortable in your presence. Who's your confidant? Who's your bestie? That ought to tell you something about who you are. 2 Corinthians 6:14, Paul lays it down when he says, do not be yoked together with unbelievers. So the point Paul's trying to make is there's such a conflict in interest. How can the two be joined together in fellowship? And I just hear some of you saying, well, you're trying to tell me that in order for me to live for Jesus, I gotta divorce myself from my friends when really I'm called to be a friend to those people? God, you need to hear this. I saw this post just the other day, and I shared it. Once again, it disappeared off my Facebook too. So let me find it. It better not have disappeared off the printed page, or I'm going to really be mad. It really did. This is crazy. Let me tell you Joelology. Jesus hung out with sinners, but he walked with believers. Oh. Jesus hung out with those that didn't yet know him as an avenue of making an introduction as to who he was, not trying to blend in with them so that he was undetected. Amen. Jesus' purpose with hanging out with those that didn't know him was to make new disciples out of them. The problem with the church today is we have lost the art of making disciples. And since we don't know what we're doing to make disciples, we refuse to make introductions. Oh, Jesus, help me today. That is excellent. That is so excellent. We don't know what it is to make a disciple, so we don't make introductions of ourselves or try to introduce them to Jesus, because then it's like, now what? I'll never forget the day that Rachel came to me and told me that she was pregnant.